Have you ever noticed how often people talk about performance? Like, it's everywhere,
Yeah.
Work, sports, even just life in general.
Right.
Like, everyone's expected to be, crushing it all the time.
Yeah.
But what does that even really mean?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, today we're going to dive deep into the world of performance theories to find out.
Okay. Sounds good.
So it's funny because there are literally like hundreds of these theories out there
There are,
that
yeah.
try to explain like what makes people perform well,
Right.
which can be a little overwhelming
It can be.
if you're just trying to figure out like how to get better at something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's why we're going to look at this super interesting article
Okay.
from the Journal of Management Scientific Reports.
Hmm.
It's called Performance, Confirming, Refining, and Refuting Theories.
Okay.
And it uses this cool model called the core model
Yes.
to try and make sense of all this performance chaos.
Yeah, the core model's really helpful.
Okay, so break it down for me.
Sure. So it basically breaks down performance into 3 key elements:
Okay.
capacity, opportunity, and relevant exchanges.
All right, so capacity first.
Yeah, so capacity is all about your ability to do something.
Okay.
So it's like your skills, your knowledge, your resources.
Like all the things you bring to the table.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
But even if you have all the talent in the world, you still need the right circumstances to really shine.
Right, you need the opportunity.
Exactly.
So tell me about opportunity.
So opportunity is all about those circumstances.
Okay.
So things like the organizational structure, being in the right role, having the time and space to do your best work.
Like all those external factors that can either help or hinder you.
Precisely.
Okay. And then we have relevant exchanges.
Right. So this one's all about the interactions and relationships that affect performance.
Okay.
So things like teamwork, leadership, customer relationships.
So all the people you work with and how those relationships impact your performance. It's pretty cool how this model helps us see how those different elements all work together
Yeah, it's like a framework for understanding the whole performance puzzle.
to drive performance.
Right. And the article actually suggests some cool ways to test and improve these theories.
Oh, really?
Wow.
So it's not just like theoretical mumbo jumbo.
No, not at all.
They actually give you ways to like put these theories into practice.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, one way is through something called replication studies.
Replication study.
Yes.
Okay.
So imagine you take a classic study, let's say one on goal setting,
Mm-hmm.
and you redo it, but in a completely different setting.
So like if the original study was done with factory workers,
Yeah,
now you're going to test it with like nurses or teachers or something.
exactly.
Okay, so you're basically putting these theories through a real-world stress test
You could say that.
to see if they hold up in different environments.
Exactly, because what works in one context might not work in another.
It's like taking a theory for a test drive on different terrains.
I like that analogy.
Will it hold up on a smooth highway, or will it fall apart when you take it off-road?
Haha, yeah. And sometimes those test drives can lead to some surprising discoveries.
Oh, really?
Yeah. For example, there was a recent replication study that challenged the classic belief
Okay.
that setting ambitious goals always leads to better performance.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying ambitious goals are bad?
Well, it's not that simple.
Because I thought that was like the key to success.
It often is. But this study found that when researchers tested goal-setting theory with creative professionals, they found that setting vague goals actually led to more innovative solutions.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it was surprising.
So maybe it's not just about how big the goal is, but also like how it's framed and what kind of work you're doing.
Exactly.
Okay, so those replication studies sound pretty cool
They're really insightful.
because they can really challenge our assumptions about what works and what doesn't.
Exactly, and they help us refine these theories to make them more relevant and useful in the real world.
So we can actually apply them to our lives.
Right, because the world of work is constantly changing.
It is.
And our understanding of performance needs to keep up.
So thinking about the core model,
Yeah.
maybe having that opportunity for creative freedom is more important than having a rigid, ambitious goal in certain situations.
That's a great insight.
Okay, so we've got those replication studies.
Yes.
What other methods do they suggest for, like, testing and improving these theories?
Another interesting approach is what they call tests of competing theories.
Tests as competing theories.
Yeah.
That sounds intense.
It's kind of like a theoretical showdown.
Okay, I'm listening.
You pit 2 theories against each other, and see which one comes out on top.
Okay, give me an example.
All right, so let's take expectancy theory, which says that people are mainly motivated by rewards.
Okay, like money or bonuses.
Exactly.
All right.
And let's pit that against self-determination theory, which emphasizes the need for autonomy and control over your work.
So like having freedom and flexibility.
Right.
Okay, interesting.
So imagine an experiment where someone is offered a huge bonus,
Okay.
but they have to work in total isolation.
Ooh.
No teamwork, no collaboration.
So it's like a trade-off.
Exactly.
More money, but less freedom.
Right.
Which theory wins in that situation?
That's the question, isn't it?
Would the allure of that bonus be enough to overcome the lack of autonomy?
Yeah, that's what these studies try to figure out.
I'm on the edge of my seat here.
Well, the results of an experiment like that could tell us a lot about what really drives performance in that particular situation.
Is it the external reward?
Right.
Or is it that intrinsic motivation that comes from feeling in control of your work?
Exactly.
And I bet the answer might even depend on the person.
It probably does.
Right? Some people might thrive on that independent challenge, while others would totally wither without a team to support them.
Absolutely, and that's another key takeaway here.
With that?
There's no one-size-fits-all approach to performance. What works for one person or in one situation might not work in another.
So it's like we need a personalized performance playbook based on our own unique strengths and the context we're operating in.
I like that.
This is getting good. Tell me more about these fascinating studies.
Well, there are a few more, but I think we should take a pause here.
Okay.
Let our listener digest all this information.
Okay, you're right. We don't want to overload anyone.
Yeah, there's a lot to take in.
Don't worry.
Okay.
We'll be back soon to dive even deeper into these performance theories.
Sounds good. All right, so before the break, we were talking about the studies that test how much a reward matters compared to having freedom at work.
Right. Like, is it the bonus that motivates us?
Yeah.
Or is it that feeling of control? You know, being able to do things your own way?
Yeah. And it turns out there's a whole category of studies that look at assumptions like this.
Assumptions?
Yeah, like underlying beliefs about how people work.
Okay.
And they test those beliefs with data to see if they actually hold up.
So it's not just assuming things.
Right. It's about getting real evidence.
I like that approach.
Yeah. It's important because a lot of these performance theories, they rely on these beliefs about human behavior, but sometimes those beliefs haven't really been tested.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, for example, some team performance theories, they assume that everyone on the team is on the same page.
Like they all have the same goals and understanding of their roles.
Exactly. But in reality, how often is everyone truly on the same page?
I mean, I feel like that's pretty rare even in the best teams.
Right. So by actually testing these assumptions, we can make sure our theories are built on solid ground.
Otherwise, it's like building a house on sand.
Exactly.
Looks good at first, but eventually it's going to crumble.
And speaking of real-world applications, the article also highlights how the core model can shed light on some really interesting findings.
Okay, like what? I'm ready for those aha moments.
Well, one that really stood out to me was about how the content of your speech can actually influence whether or not you emerge as a leader.
Really? So it's not just about how much you talk, but what you actually say.
Exactly. It's a perfect example of relevant exchanges in action.
Right.
The research found that people who contribute unique information during group discussions, they're more likely to be seen as leaders.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're just repeating what everyone else is saying, you're not really adding any value to the conversation.
Exactly. But if you bring fresh insights to the table, people take notice.
So valuable contributions equal leadership points.
You could say that.
God. What other gems did you find in the article?
Another interesting example was how the perception of patents as a source of competitive advantage varies across industries.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Break that down for me.
All right, so patents are basically legal documents that protect inventions.
Right.
And they give the inventor the exclusive right to use, sell, or make their invention for a certain period of time.
Okay, I know what a patent is.
Yeah.
But how does that relate to performance?
Well, in some industries, patents are seen as absolutely crucial for success.
Okay.
Like if you're a pharmaceutical company developing a new drug, having a patent is essential for protecting your investment and maintaining a competitive edge.
But I guess in other industries, it might not be as big of a deal.
Right.
Like if you're a fashion designer,
your
designs might get copied pretty quickly, regardless of whether you have a patent or not.
Exactly. So the value of a patent.
which is a form of capacity,
Yes,
really depends on the context.
it does.
What's considered a valuable resource in one industry might be less important in another.
Right. And that's true for a lot of these performance factors.
Okay, so for our listeners out there,
Yeah.
why should they care about all these different study types and performance theories?
Well, on a practical level, understanding these theories can help people make better decisions in their own lives.
Like if you're trying to boost your own performance,
Right.
knowing what factors actually drive success can be super helpful.
Absolutely.
And it's not just about individual performance either.
No, it's not.
This stuff applies to teams, organizations,
Right.
even entire industries.
It's all connected.
Understanding these theories can help us design better work environments, develop more effective training programs,
Yeah.
and even create more innovative products and services.
It's like we're peeling back the layers of the performance onion,
Haha.
revealing all
Onion.
the intricate mechanisms that make things tick.
And the more we understand about those mechanisms, the better equipped we are to optimize performance and achieve our goals.
Exactly.
So what you're saying is, don't just blindly accept the latest performance fad or management trend.
Right.
Take a step back, look at the evidence, and figure out what actually works for you in your situation.
That's the key.
This has been an eye-opening conversation.
It has.
We've covered a lot of ground, but I feel like there's still so much more to explore.
There is.
You mentioned a couple of other study types last time.
I did.
Constructive reproducibility and generalizability.
Right.
So we have time to unpack those.
Sure, let's give it a shot.
So last time we were talking about all these different ways to test performance theories.
Yeah, like those replication studies.
Right, and those tests of competing theories.
Exactly. Those are really important.
It was so fascinating
It is.
to see how those findings can really challenge our assumptions about what drives success.
Yeah, and I think it's really empowering
Hmm.
to realize that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to performance.
It's not like there's one magic formula that works for everyone.
Exactly. It's about finding what works best for you and your specific situation.
And for the teams and organizations you work with.
Ex-
So what other cool insights did you uncover in that article?
Well, one that I found really interesting was this idea of a knowledge in practice framework.
A knowledge and practice framework.
Yeah, it's all about how knowledge is actually applied in the workplace.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
So basically it says that there are different types of knowledge.
Okay.
There's the explicit codified knowledge.
Like the stuff you find in textbooks and manuals.
Exactly.
Right.
And then there's the more tacit knowledge.
Tacit knowledge.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's the kind of knowledge that comes from experience and intuition.
It's like the difference between reading a cookbook and actually cooking a meal.
That's a perfect analogy.
You can read all the recipes you want, but until you actually get in the kitchen and start doing it, you don't really know how to cook.
Right. You need that hands-on experience.
So how does this knowledge framework relate to performance?
Well, it argues that organizations need to tailor their management strategies to the specific type of knowledge they're dealing with.
So you're saying that managing a team of engineers who rely heavily on technical manuals and specs
Yeah,
would require a different approach
it would.
than managing a team of salespeople
Right.
whose success depends more on soft skills and relationship building.
Exactly. Because the type of knowledge they use to do their jobs is different.
It's like different ingredients for different recipes.
I like that analogy.
And the article suggests some ways to test this framework too,
It does.
like doing case studies or analyzing organizational documents
Yeah, and even surveying employees.
to see how those different knowledge practices impact performance.
Right. It's all about getting that real-world data.
You mentioned a couple of other study types last time.
Yeah, those constructive reproducibility studies and generalizability studies.
Okay, can we squeeze those in?
Sure. So constructive reproducibility studies, they take the data from a previous study and reanalyze it.
Okay, so you're not replicating the whole study.
Right. You're just looking at the data with fresh eyes.
Using different techniques, maybe.
Exactly. And it's amazing what you can uncover,
I bet.
especially when you re-examine older studies with today's more sophisticated tools.
Like using a high-powered microscope instead of just a magnifying glass.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, and what about generalizability studies?
So those are all about seeing if a theory holds up in different contexts.
So, like, if a study on motivation was done with factory workers back in the day, does that same theory apply to knowledge workers today?
That's the question. And it's an important one because context matters a lot.
Like, if a leadership study was done in a very hierarchical organization,
Yeah.
would those findings be relevant to a more flat, agile company?
Probably not, or at least not in the same way.
It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Sometimes it just doesn't work.
So by testing the generalizability of these theories,
Yeah.
we can figure out where they apply and where they don't.
And that helps us make more informed decisions about how to improve performance?
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive into the world of performance theories.
It has.
So many fascinating insights and practical takeaways.
I hope our listeners found it helpful.
I think they did.
It's been a pleasure exploring this topic with you.
Likewise.
Yeah.
And for our listeners out there,
Yeah.
remember, there's no magic formula for success.
Right.
It's an ongoing process of learning and adapting.
Absolutely.
So keep asking those tough questions.
Yeah.
Keep challenging those assumptions.
Yes.
And keep seeking out those aha moments that lead to greater understanding
Right.
and better performance in all areas of your life.
That's the key.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
See you then.